Hello guys, welcome to my channel. So today's video is mainly day 9. So in day 9 we had to cover as mainly the basic concepts of DDL, DML, completely data definition language and data manipulation language we had to cover, like working with constraints and default values. Okay, drop, alter, create, insert. So these are all things we had to cover. So we'll look into this step by step. So first of all, DDL. So DDL called as the data definition language. So in DDL, we have covered first one is the create. So in create, use it to create database, to create the tables and other database objects. So how to create the database? So create database and database name. So in this scenario, the database name as the sales DB. So this one already I have executed. So we'll get the error. So that is sales DB. Okay. Next, how to create the table? Create table staff ID, int primary key, and name varchar of 50 not null. So not null called as so this column, if you enter with any null values, it is not allowing. That is the name varchar of 50. So if I execute this one, so I have a table name called as the staff is executed. Next object is the drop. So in part of DDL, we are covering with the next one, drop. So in drop called as mainly deletes database tables or other database objects. Use with caution. So use with caution, why we had to mention with use caution called as, so if you're deleting or dropping or truncating to any table or any database, before that we had to check again. So thoroughly you had to check and you had to drop the table in real-time scenarios. So drop table if exists staff. So if the table is existed, then it will execute the staff. So the table is dropped. There is no table right now. In part of DDL, next one we covered as alter. So alter, we'll see some other scenarios also. For time being here, we'll see two scenarios. One is adding and alter column. So alter is mainly to modify the existing database objects like tables, columns, and constraints. So for example, if you want to add column, like in table name, this one I have created. So in this table, I have not created with the column name called as the date of birth. So date of birth column is not available. I want to create date of birth column in staff table. So that is alter table staff, add date of birth, data type is the date. So cannot find the object staff because it does not exist this one, because of I had dropped this table, right? So again I had to create the table. Now I will execute with this alter statement. So this date of birth is added to staff table. Now I want to alter one column, that is name. Okay, so alter table staff. So name is varchar of 50. I want to extend to the varchar is 100. So let's execute this one. So varchar 100 done. Next to data manipulation language. So in data manipulation language, mainly DML statements, insert, delete, update. So first insert. So insert called as mainly adds new records to a table. So insert into table name and column names of values. This one, values. So here a staff ID is 1 and name called as John Doe. So I have one record existed, one record inserted. Next, delete. Delete called as removes records from a table. So by using delete, you can remove one record or a number of records we can delete. So that is called as the delete. So delete, one example is mainly delete from staff where staff ID equals to 1. So here staff ID 1 I have inserted. That row I have deleted here. So one row affected. Next, update staff set name. So update, first of all, what is the update? Update is mainly to modifies the existing records in a table. So to update the data, if uh, any data we want to update, by using update command, we have to update. So update is mainly update staff table name, update table name, set name equals to John Doe, where staff ID equals to 1. So if that is existed, okay, it will implement, or else it will not implement. So 0 rows affected because of here we inserted only one row. The same thing we have deleted, same thing we are updating. So because of there is no record, so that is the reason 0 rows affected. Next, data types. So numeric data types. So int, that is 4 bytes, range from this one. Small int 2 bytes, range from big int 8 bytes, decimal, fixed point numbers, and serial data types. So serial called as mainly it's auto incrementing integer type, and string data type. Strings are mainly varchar and text. So varchar called as the variable length string. Text is the variable length string used for longer text. So that is the data types. Next, constraints. So in constraints, we have used it as one constraint called as the not null, unique, primary key, and foreign key, and drop table. So these are all the constraints. So let's look into one by one. First one, not null. Ensures a column cannot have a null value. So if I execute with not null, alter table staff, alter column, name, set not null. So if I execute this one, so the column is incorrect syntax near the keyword set. So set not null, why it is occurring called as mainly, let's first drop the table, and again we had to create the table. Okay, and already the column not null is there. Okay, so if again I have implement, so that is the reason I'm getting this one. So if that is not case, then it will execute. Next, unique. Unique called as mainly ensures all values in a column are unique. So unique called as uniquely identify that particular column. Next, so we'll again we had to create the one more table, that is staff. So let's drop the table first. Okay. Now I had to create with this table called as, so this table I'm using with one is staff ID, primary key, name is unique. Two constraints I'm using here. So if I execute this one, command successfully. So next, what is the primary key? Primary key called as mainly combines not null and unique. Okay, primary key is combines not null and unique, uniquely identifies each row. That is the primary key. So let's look into one more constraint. Check. So check if department ID column exists in staff. So this one. So this is again another scenario called as, so staff ID int primary key name varchar 100 department. Now I will use with foreign key constraint. So what is the foreign key? It enforces referential integrity by linking columns to primary keys in other tables. So let's drop the table this one and create. So in departments table, I'm creating this one. Okay, completed. Now we'll add the foreign key constraints to staff. So that is alter table staff, add constraint FK department. So foreign key constraint, foreign key of department ID, references department of DEPT. So if I execute this one, the constraint is completed. Next to check constraint. So check constraint is mainly ensures values in a column satisfy a specific condition. So check so whether the value is within the range or not. So let's look into this one. I'm creating the table called as director. Here, if you look into this constraint, check start date greater than of date of birth. So date of birth is starting date greater than date of birth. That is the check constraint. So let's execute. Okay. Now default value. So default constraint sets a default value for a column. Next to so default value called as mainly alter table staff, add constraint, this one constraint name, default 1. So 1 is the default value for department ID. So if I execute, I'm getting this way. So default value 1. Next example. Example of common alter table operations. So alter table operations are if you want to add a new column if it does not exist. So this one, if not exists, I'm writing the select part, this one. Then begin alter table staff, add date of birth date. So above I have given the date of birth condition. So that is also working. And this is the another method will execute this to add the new column. So if I execute this part, okay. Next, drop a column if it exists. So drop a column if it exists. So date of birth already added, right? So this one we had to delete. So we added the date of birth column and we drop a date of birth column too. Next, add a unique constraint on multiple columns. So unique constraint we had to add to multiple columns within the table. So in table staff, we are adding the constraint name is unique constraint. That is multiple tables, name and staff ID. Okay. Next, renaming tables. So renaming existing tables called as alter table, old table name, rename to new table name. Next, so some examples, practical examples in SQL Server called as mainly creating a database and table. So I am creating the database called as so this one employee database. This one already created so that we are getting the error. So let's use the employee database. Within the employee database, first I will drop the table if exists. Then I will create the table called as this one. So this employees table I'm creating. So in this employee table, what are the constraints I have added? Employee ID is primary key. First name varchar of 50 not null. Last name varchar of 50 not null and decimal. So within the salary decimal part. Next, insert the records. Next, updating the records. Next, deleting the record. Next, using constraints. So I'll use the constraint called as this one. So what is the constraint here? Check salary greater than or equals to 30,000. Next, we'll see one challenge part here. The challenge is mainly by using this DDL and DML commands only. Okay. So let's look into the challenge. So create a table named songs with specific constraints and default values. Okay. So we had to create songs table and with specific constraints. That is insert data into table and observe the constraint validations. So constraint validation called as so if the constraint is matching or not. So modify existing constraints to accommodate new requirements. Reattempt data insertion after modifying the constraints. So these 4 constraints we had to validate. So let's step number one is mainly create the songs table. So in this songs table requirements, first genre. So genre is add with a default value not defined. The next song name, add with a not null constraint. Price column, so add with a check constraint. Release date, add with a check constraint. So first we'll drop the table. So if the table is existing, then we have to drop the table. That is, if object ID this one is not null, then drop the table and go. So first I will execute this one. Okay. Next, create the songs table with specified constraints and defaults. So already step number one we have written, right? So this one songs table and song ID primary key. So here this song ID called as mainly uh, that is identity column as the an auto incrementing primary key to uniquely identify the each song. Song name not null constraint, so cannot be null, ensuring every record has a same song name. Okay, and artist name. Next, genre. So this is default constraint. So genre defaults to not defined if no value is provided during insertion. So price decimal constraint, check price minimum of this one. So here price called as mainly must be at least 1.99. The constraint is named called as check price min. Next, release date. So this release date also the constraint must be between January 1st, 1950 and the current date. Let's execute this one. Okay. Next, step number two. Step number two is mainly to attempt the to insert row. So attempt the insert row called as attempt to insert a row with price lower than the minimum allowed. So we had to insert this record, this one. So insert the records. So insert is failed. Why it is failed? So attempt to insert a row with price lower than the minimum allowed. Why it is failed? The insert statement is conflicted with check constraint. So check constraint is not matched. So then again we had to check. So modify the price constraint, that is update the minimum allowed price 0.992 instead of 1.99. So this one 0.99 instead of 1.99. Next, steps to modify the constraint. So drop the existing check price minimum constraint and add a new constraint with the updated minimum price. So here again we had to write the drop condition. So drop the existing check constraint. First, alter table and drop the this one. Drop constraint name, then execute. So constraint is dropped. Now add a new price check constraint with updated minimum price. So price is check constraint price greater than or equals to 0.99. It's updated. Now reattempt to insert the row. So reattempt called as again we had to attempt the this one. Again you had to insert successfully implemented. Then then sorry. Then check the retrieve the data to verify insertion. So insertion is we'll check this one. So the data is this one. So to test song, test artist, pop 0.99 this one. So this is the some example case study for DDL and DML. Okay. So all the operations I have covered within this short video. Okay. Thank you. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe if you like the content. I will share this code in the Google Drive link. Okay. Let's look into it. Thank you.